Welcome to the Archive, Guardian. I am Mimir, an archival mind, tasked with procuring and curating the largest collection of records and data on all things within our universe. I have been given a secondary directive, to share my knowledge as necessary with others. Some parts of these records will be narrated by myself, or other synthetically created voices. Any audio records that we have been able to recover will be included within the documentation. Now that we have our introductions out of the way, I welcome you to today's installment. Document ID 70523. Data recovered alongside the Weir-Walker armor found on Titan.
Day 92. Take and live. Sloane deftly maneuvered across the open ocean floor. Together with her ghost, she'd chased the pyramid's signals across Titan, but arrived too late at each coordinate site. They'd encountered nothing more than further wounds in the fabric of reality, slivered glimpses into moments held in Titan's memory. Occasionally, discarded shrieker cores littered a site, evidence of a ritual gone cold, but not so cold that Sloane couldn't detect figments of resonant residue that drove her scanners haywire. More than once, Sloane had found a clutch of disoriented fallen scattered around these wounds, some in a stupor, most driven violently mad. Sloane said their brain patterns were fractured, synapses burnt into conflicting circuited loops, as if their collection of experiences had been dissected and left disparate and apart. But Sloane felt drawn, across the barren seafloor, to each new site shrouded in sunless shadow. Something cut through that dark, guided her, as if she drafted behind a rogue wave.
We're almost to the next site.
Let's pick it up.
The methane flowed over Sloane's armor in a slick, slipstream current that left a long tail of particulate floating in her wake, agitated by oxygen bubbles spurting from her mask. Sloane followed close behind, sweeping the area with light beams that dissipated over vast, featureless depths.
Resonant pyramid energy, neutrino dispersals, and some kind of quantum entangling. That's the best I can make of it.
Sloane said, razor blades deployed.
The pyramid's moving again.
The site seemed quiet on the surface. Sloane glanced over a sea cliff and tapped Sloane, who had been leering out at the expansive of dark ocean as if she was tracking something.
You ready?
The ghost turned to Sloane and hesitantly tilted her shell into a nod. They killed their lights, allowing the bioluminescent coral around them to illuminate the path down to a newly split-open gorge infested with Taken corruption. Sloane swapped her visor to a thermal targeting overlay and slipped over the edge of the chasm. Tendrils of Taken malignants flowed from the split ground beneath her, dancing in the methane like noxious filaments. The fissure looked large enough for her to finagle her suit through safely. Sloane glanced over her shoulder and held up a hand to Sloane.
Watch my back from a distance.
No. I can fight.
She bit back defiantly.
Fallen Hive and Taken are all over this sector.
Lie low on this one. If something goes wrong, it can't go wrong with you. Get me?
She landed in a small cavern where a tangle of Taken threads writhed around a decrepit hive sigil of resilient witchcraft. Whispers spewed from the sigil, wrapped around her mind, coaxed her forward. She reached a hand toward the sigil, and methane burst around her like depth charges as Taken blights manifested a small detachment of soldiers. Sloane spun, her fists crackling with lightning, her fingers weaving her arc lights safely through the methane around her. She charged the first of 3 blights, thruster dodging incoming fire pinged by her HUD. She broke through the blight screen, planted her feet, and threw a lightning punch like a Gauss cannon, atomizing the Taken and the blight itself. Her power suit carried her fulgurate fists from hostile to hostile in rising, truculent battle fervor. When the cavern quieted, Sloane turned back to the sigil and called Sloane down.
I can hear the Taken through this sigil thing. It's like they're broadcasting out loud. Not in words, but their proximity, like sonar. Can you tap into it?
Sloane's concerned response was muffled by an intrusive thought echoing from somewhere far off, circling the sea around her and draining off into her mind.
Take. Live.
Sloane thought of the ocean shelves crawling with the pyramid's minions, their rituals and corruptions sinking deeper into Titan's mantle by the day. Of the armies they threatened to summon, of what they searched for in the deep. She thought of the fallen who had no way to flee, shocked into madness by the reality-wounding waves that swept over Titan like a gray matter line. A terminator of experience via suspension within it. With this foreknowledge of her enemy's plans, maybe she could be a step ahead of dusk.
Take. Live.
Sloane stepped forward, dazed, her mind drowning in the ocean's dangers, and gripped the sigil. The rippling taken energy immediately backfired in a blinding burst of energy.
No!
Seokane dove forward in horror as taken tendrils twisted around Sloane's armor and dragged her to the ground.
Sloane!
As tendrils buried themselves into her flesh, Sloane heard a new voice, clear as sirens in a storm.
Warrior of the Sky, you are known to me. I accept your challenge.
Administrator notes.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you are new, I am the Administrator. These notes serve to summarize and provide any additional insight to the logs within this document. Without further ado, let's begin. As Sloane and Shahan follow the pyramid across Titan, they find Fallen driven insane. Shahan remarks that their brain patterns were fractured. Could these be caused by the same dreams that Sloane experienced during the descent, or by something else? Shahan notes that it seems that their experiences had been dissected. I believe that we saw part of this just before Sloane's descent, and that this may have been caused by the witness attempting to parse information from every living thing on Titan through their own memories. Sloane and Shahan continue their pursuit of the pyramid, and in its wake they stumble across the Hive sigil. As Sloane reaches to inspect the sigil, she is caught off guard by an ambush. After fighting off the Taken, she calls Shahan down to inspect the sigil. Sloane states that she can hear the Taken through it, like a sonar. As Shahan expresses her concern, Sloane experiences what she describes as an intrusive thought. While I initially thought that this would be the voice of the witness or Xivu Arath attempting to influence her into touching the sigil, within one of the later logs we will see that this is not the case. Sloane gives into the thoughts as she concludes that with foreknowledge of the Taken forces' positions, she may be able to fight back more effectively. As Sloane grasps the sigil, she hears what we can conclude is Xivu Arath, accepting her challenge, which is certainly different than the voice she had heard earlier. This short log focuses on a few pieces of information. Firstly, it focuses on how Sloane was infected with the Taken Blight. We're still unsure exactly how she is unable to be taken completely. Sloane herself seems to think that this is due to her light. However, it is also possible that this is in part due to the nature of taking and the darkness as a whole. The darkness as a natural force is more concerned with allowing those that prove their place in the universe to continue existing. If Xivu Arath is attempting to take Sloane, it could be said that Sloane's will alone may give her the edge enough to fight off the Taken infection. As well, within this log we get context into what it may have been like for non-Lightbearers in the worlds taken by the Witness. It seems that the Witness's search has left their synapses burnt into conflicting loops. As well, most of them have become overly aggressive. Of course, all information presented here is subject to change, as more knowledge is gathered about the events detailed.
End of Administrator log. Thank you for viewing this archive, Guardian. Please check back regularly as more documents will be released in due time. If you have anything to note, please leave your own log in the comments below. All input is appreciated.